Hi, I'm Jan Kowalski, and I'm with Green Slate I Incorporated. And tonight I'm hoping to have a guest, Paul McKinney, with us. He's running a little late, so bear with me. Now, this is a live interactive show on CAN TV, channel 21, and we're also streaming live at cantv.org/hotline. And tonight we're going to have Mr. McKinney as a guest with us, and we're going to be discussing the current violence in Chicago and what, if anything, can be done to reduce the violence. And for the next 25 minutes, you are more than welcome to call in with any comments, questions, or concerns, or just to join the conversation. The number is displayed on the bottom of your screen, and it is, it's on the bottom of your screen there. And let me introduce myself. I'm Jan Kowalski, and I'm here on behalf of Green Slate I Incorporated. And Green Slate is a not-for-profit entity. And here's the sheet that you can see. It has their email address, it's got their website, and their phone number. And let me tell you a little bit about Green Slate I. Green Slate is dedicated to assisting ex-convicts. They've got a number of programs, including reentry programs, Feeding the Families of Inglewood, Kirby's Kids Camp, and they also have a program through the Circuit Court of Cook County, and it's their community service program. So if you have any community service that needs to be fulfilled, by all means, let me give you the overhead again. It's Green Slate I Incorporated, and there's their email at capepucketyouthcenter@gmail.com. And of course, Green Slate's phone number is 312-866-9748. And I'm Jan Kowalski. Some of you might not know me, but if you've seen the show before, my apologies. And that's Kowalski is Kowalski. And to help you remember my name, I also have this cute little guy. Let me show you him. There he is. That's my little koala bear, and he's on skis. And you're like, Jan, why do you have a koala on skis? The koala on skis is short for my name, which is Kowalski. So I figured koala on skis to help you remember that. And some people might be tempted to say it's not Kowalski, but they might suggest that my name is Kawasaki. And there's my cute little pink motorcycle. But no, it's not Kawasaki. It's really the koala on the skis. And to further help you remember my name, I have one more little guy here, and he's my favorite. Let me show you him. There's my koala, and you can see he is 100% qualified because I'm Jan Kowalski, and I'm also 100% qualified. And now to the show. Before Mr. McKinney gets here, we have a couple minutes, and this is a live interactive program, and by all means, you're welcome to call in and join the discussion. One thing I'm really excited about is what Green Slate Institute for Justice has planned coming up for this election season. Green Slate is in the midst of preparing a referendum to be introduced on the ballot, hopefully for the for the November of 18 election. Now, Green Slate Institute for Justice has done research as to the Circuit Court of Cook County. And unfortunately, if you're a criminal defendant, there are certain portions of Cook County where there is a higher conviction rate than in other portions of Cook County. Now, this can either be a result of fantastic police work in these jurisdictions with these high rates, or else it could be due to a bias. For instance, if you're a prior state's attorney and you're selected to be a judge, perhaps that might be a little biased, and that might contribute to some sub-circuits having a very high conviction rate. Last I knew, the conviction rate coming out of the Bridgeview, which is the 5th district, was, I believe it was 96% conviction rate. That is an extremely high conviction rate. And in Green Slate's attempts to assist ex-convicts and ex-offenders is perhaps to make a fair and equitable system. Most people think, well, when I go to court, I'm going to get a fair judge. And that is what our Constitution guarantees people. You have the right to a fair and impartial finder of fact. The problem is when you go out to some of these sub-circuits, you might find not a circuit judge, but an associate judge. Now, before I was a lawyer, I had no idea what the difference was between an associate judge and a circuit judge. Jan, what's the difference? They're both judges. Associate judge, circuit judge, does it matter? They're both judges and they're ruling in my case. It does matter, and let me tell you why. Circuit judges, they are elected every 4 to 6 years, depending upon which judgeship they have. And that means that they're required to submit a ballot. That means they are required to be subject to the scrutiny of the voters of Cook County. And this means that bad judges theoretically can be removed. Now, prior to when I was an attorney and I go to the voting booth, I would see a long list of judges. I want to say 50 judges. And it always says, vote to retain judges A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The list just keeps coming. My eyes, even now, they glaze over. Do I want to vote to retain all those judges? Even now, when I'm an attorney, some of these judges I honestly have not appeared in front of, even though I've been an attorney for quite some time now. Perhaps they're in a different division, perhaps they're a new judge. So I might not be familiar with these judges. Do I vote to retain them or not? Generally speaking, and I think most voters would agree with me, let's just keep the status quo and retain the ones. The problem is that we really need to be starting to take some notice as to which judges we're seeking to retain. I know for a fact that there are certain judges out there I'd like to have removed. So Green Slate, so those are the circuit judges. Oh, hang on a second, I'll be right back. Oh, overhead? Oh, overhead. Hi there. There's... Oh yes, hi, I'm sorry, I did not know. We're being joined right now by our guest, Paul McKinney, and give me a second while we get in position. And again, that's my cute little koala bear, and that is for my name, Jan Kowalski, and it shows you that I'm 100% qualified. And back to me. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm joined by Paul McKinney. Hi, Paul. Would you introduce yourself to our viewers?
My name is Paul McKinley. I'm an activist. We have an ex-offender group. The name of the organization is Vote, Voice of the Ex-Offender.
Wait, you're going too fast. You have an ex-offender group, and it's called the...
Vote, Voice of the Ex-Offenders.
Vote, Voice of the Ex-Offenders.
Yeah.
And can you give our viewers a little bit of information about the Vote, Voice of Ex-Offenders?
Well, first of all, most people that get out of jail can't really get a job, and so we started protesting the construction industry. And contrary to popular belief, the construction industry is very ex-offender free, friendly. And so a lot of people that went to jail worked for the construction industry. But we was having a problem getting in there, so we had to relatively force our way into it. And so now we got a lot of people working.
Well, hang on in there. You said a couple of very interesting statements in there. How can you say that the construction industry is offender-friendly when you have any number of unions that are against non-union employees?
Well, the unions don't have any problem with ex-offenders who are in the union. And so the problem was they didn't want, we were not in the union, so we had to protest the site because most of the construction sites are in the black community. Most of the construction sites that you may be seeing is in our community, and so we have to boycott, shut the construction site down, stop work, all kind of tactics to make them hire the people in the community. And plus there's a city ordinance that says that they must hire 50% of residency, people who live in that community, and so they know this going in, and so this is just something that we've been in existence since 2000. And so it's been like 17 years, almost 20 years. And so we just take it as a rule of thumb that we just got to go in there and get our share of the jobs.
Well, let me ask you, as an ex-offender, how do I get in the union?
Well, the unions, their thing is that...
Let me clarify, we're talking about the construction trade unions, which is the electricians, right, plumbers, HVAC, carpenters, laborers.
I don't want anybody to get it twisted. The unions in Chicago has been historically discriminatory toward African Americans specifically and minorities in general.
Stipulated.
They definitely are discriminatory toward women in particular also, white women also. And so a lot of times you have to use various tactics to make them put people...
Hold on to that, Paul. Hang on. We have a caller. Caller, would you care to join the discussion? I don't hear a caller. All right. I'm sorry, Paul. You were saying about the union.
They must have hung up. They must have hung up. So we have to use a lot of different tactics to make them hire people in the community and put them in the pre-apprenticeship program. I mean, it's a struggle with them because their attitude is that, it's good old boys. We're going to do what we're going to do, and y'all, we ain't going to stop doing it. And you have to make them do it. And Sort of that's what's been we've been dealing with.
I think we found our caller. Caller, would you care to join the discussion?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Caller, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I got cut off the first time. You know what the gentleman next to you is?
Can you speak louder? Caller, I can barely hear you.
Pardon?
Now I can hear you. Can you repeat your question, please?
I said the gentleman next to you is 100% right about construction. There's 150, 60, 70 million dollars worth of construction going on right now downtown. 70 cranes are out down there. Guess what? Not one African American, not one Hispanic construction company is on there.
Our caller is saying that not one African American or Hispanic construction company is on the 70 cranes that are currently doing construction on the south side.
So what he's talking about the construction sites downtown. And during the protests with the Laquan McDonald protest, that came up, but most of the people stayed on the Laquan McDonald issue, and that has reemerged, that very issue that you just made about that downtown has excluded everybody from the construction. And this is done because the city created an ordinance whether they said anything that the city gives to any development over $25 million must be union. And so those unions you see down there, those cranes, those local one iron workers, which historically has been discriminated, and all that's got a lot of iron down there, who has been discriminating against everybody and won't allow men. So we're hoping that this U.S. Attorney Sessions, which a lot of people got a problem with it. They don't like him or whatever the case may be. But we hope that he come in and break up this monopoly downtown, because either that or it's going to be a large protest like it was with the Laquan McDonald.
Hang on, before we start protesting, hang on, Paul.
Sir,
Paul,
you're
and, you know,
right.
if you keep talking with the caller, we're fine. I'm sorry about that. And Paul, how many of these Hispanic and African American construction companies can handle a construction contract that's worth $25 million and get the necessary bonding to do so if they're not in the union? How many companies are out there?
Well, first of all, there are African American and Latino companies that are doing. There's a company by the name of Old Veteran. They're doing a site. It's a Latino company. It's on Washington and by Pulaski. That's a $40 million site. So they're saying that the Latinos or African Americans can't do a $40 or $50 million site is not true. What it is that the aldermen, they play a part in this here to make sure that when it's zoning and permits, and part of downtown is a part of Alderman Walter Burnett's ward. Alderman Walter Burnett has a part of downtown and Caprini Greens. If you ride around right there on Chicago Avenue, you will see a couple of cranes over there. That Walter Burnett zoned and permit that to right there, right next to Caprini Greens. So a lot of times the African American aldermen who receive donations from the unions. That's why you don't see a lot of people there, because the aldermen turn a blind eye, and then the people has to come and fight for the jobs, and the union controls the jobs.
All right, before we start fighting for our jobs, Paul, let me just stop for a station identification here. You are watching Green Slate I Incorporated. It's a live show on CanTV Channel 21 and cantv.org/hotline. And today's discussion is ex-offenders in the construction trades. And you are more than welcome to join us and join the conversation by calling the number displayed on your screen. That's 312-738-1060. Back to you, Paul. We were demonstrating. Why are we demonstrating?
Well, the only way that you will be able to put the people in the city of Chicago to work, if Chicago is 48% African American and 32, they say it's 32% Latinos, then 48% of African Americans should be working downtown, and 32% of Latinos should be working downtown. And we also know that there's at least 55% of the city is women. So maybe even 55% of the women need to be even working downtown. So that shows you that.
I work downtown, but I don't do construction.
Well, there are women that do construction. There are women that do participate in this industry, and some of them are ex-offenders, some are not, and they're not getting their share of the money, and it's based on the fact that all of the construction sites are zoned and permitted by the aldermen, and the aldermen zone and permits it, even knowing that they're not going to get any people in their community, and so that drives up the violence in the community because contrary to popular beliefs, mostly, I would say 65 to even 75% of the violence and robberies and burglaries and car thefts is based on money. I believe people are out here trying to, what they think is the way they're going to survive by taking somebody else's stuff, and it all pans out at the end. It doesn't work out.
Let me jump in there, Paul. I absolutely agree with Paul. I think that money essentially is the root of all evil, but it could also be the root of all good. The concern is that people need jobs in order to provide for their families, their homes, their communities, and their churches.
Well, in Chicago, what you have in Chicago is what they call crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is where friends, families, and close ones are given jobs, and everybody else fend for themselves. You figure out what you need to do. And so that's why we have the deficits that we have in Chicago. That's why we have the school closings that we have in Chicago. That's why we have people fleeing from Chicago. That's why.
Wait. I have to take you to task on that. I don't think that's the reason for all the deficits. I really don't. If you ask me, it's the pension problem. We have a huge pension deficit, and that's what's driving the economy here. And the people that are in office want to protect their pensions.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what
no, we're talking about the ex-offenders in construction.
Well, the pensions deal with the construction too, because they take the pension money out and they invest it in the construction industry. So when they took the pension money out and invested in the construction industry in the 2008, and the stock market fell, specifically on the south side. And when the housing market fell, that hurt the pensions. So the construction industry still has something to do with the pensions.
Well, of course it does. People need houses to live in. We need houses to be built for families and communities. Honestly, if you look right now from King Drive to the Red Line, there's just a grass prairie out there. Well, we need houses built. If you have houses, you have a tax base. If you have houses, you have people working and have jobs. Then you have families and communities. And then, if you ask me, you have less violence.
Well, I agree with that.
What? Paul agrees with me. Did you hear that?
I agree with that. I can't fight you on that one because the truth is the truth, and you have to accept it, whoever says it. But I do want to add to that is that Chicago is supposed to be a world-class city, and it was supposed to be a world-class city based on the fact that there was supposed to be a housing. Well, they were supposed to get the Olympics. That didn't work out, and then there was a housing bust. Then we got a wreck called the Mayor. And so Chicago has not reached to the level of the first-class city yet, based on the fact that they have not took the investment to this community. I'm going to put them in a headlock.
I've been a Chicago resident pretty much all my life. I was born and raised here, and if you ask me, Chicago is still a world-class city. So I'm going to take him to the man on that one.
You don't take me to task on it? I'm saying that Chicago could raise to the level of prominence if they would abandon the crony capitalism and invest in the young men and women in our society. I truly believe that the problem in our community is that a lot of the elitists or oligarchy or whatever new name they want to call themselves are hoarding the money instead of investing the money in these young, brilliant minds that we have today so that they can come out and invent all the things that need to be invented and come with all the great and inventive ideas and to make this a greater city than it even can be. But I think that we'll never be able to get there as long as we keep electing the same people who have the same mindset, as long as we keep idolizing people who have the same mindset, and as long as we support people who have the exact same mindset. We have to break away from this Stockholm syndrome. Is that what the Jewish community calls it?
That's what it is. I absolutely agree with you. I think the only way to change things is to elect politicians that are going to be in there for people as opposed to re-electing the same people.
Well, I think that if we would sit down with the young people, and I think that the young people who are looking at your show should, I think that this election cycle for aldermans and mayors should be the youngest people ever to run. I think all young people should go out, knock on doors, and they should run for office. They couldn't do no worse. So what worse could they do than what's going on in our society right now? And they need opportunity. Give them a chance. If they right or wrong, good or bad, up or down, let them try to correct the problem. And you might just find out that they may have some of the answers to resolve some of our problems.
I'm going to have to disagree with that. I've got an 18-year-old at home, and I don't even like giving her the keys. You're telling me I should give her the keys to the city and put her on the ballot? No, I agree with you that we need young blood to restart the city. But at the same time, I think we need some wisdom and some experience to go along with that.
We got enough wisdom now, and it seems like the people that's in office now is falling on deaf ears. I truly believe that there are people telling these people that are in office the right thing, and they're choosing to do the wrong thing. I mean, I went to the penitentiary, and people were telling me to, imagine yourself running down a road, and the road is, and the bridge is out. And I was running down that road, and there were people on that road telling me, get off the road. The bridge is out. Don't go in that direction. You're going the wrong way. And I kept going, and then I fell in the river, and then it swept me down to the Illinois Department of Corrections. And so, I believe that there are people out doing it.
Do we have a caller?
Yes, you do. How are you guys doing?
Hi,
today?
thanks for joining the discussion.
Okay. I'm a friend of there, and I love the thought of the young slate. The young slate right now in the city of Chicago really does need a little bit more mentoring, but it is a great idea. I think that if we grab our youth right now, in 2 years, there's a possibility that we can possibly have them ready to run for mayor and all these other seats that are coming up in 2 years. I know, Paul, you out here doing that already, but as a politician, how do we groom our kids?
Oh, unfortunately, I think we lost the last part of that. How do we groom our kids to be politicians in the future? Our caller likes the idea of a young slate.
I didn't hear what the question was. It's so low.
She likes the idea of a young slate, but she wants to know, how do we groom our children to be leaders?
Well, first of all, I'm a true believer that all our young people, this whole struggle with the violence and the negative images that we see of the young people, and the negative images that we see on TV, and all these, because all these movies to me are negative. These vampire movies, these movies where they're selling drugs, killing each other. And I think that all this perpetrating of negativism is, and these young people who are on Facebook trying to emulate something that they never was or never may ever can be. I think all this is being perpetrated on our young people to stop our young people. And I'm talking about the young people in general. I'm not talking about any particular color.
Do we have a caller?
Sure. Paul, can you tell us about Mr. Will services, if they've arranged them yet? Do you know?
Caller was at Will Services?
Will Cooper, have they made the arrangements for him yet?
The Will Cooper arrangements?
I can't hear, so did you hear what he said?
Our caller wants to know if they made arrangements for Will Cooper's services, I guess?
Yeah, Willie Cooper was killed on 95th Street Saturday, and Willie Cooper's services will be held on 115th in Indiana. And those services will start at 10 to 11 and from 11 to 12. And we're asking for the whole community to come out.
I don't think you said what day.
The date is Saturday.
The Saturday from 9 to 12 and?
Yeah. From 10 to 11, from 11 to 12.
And that's at
on 115th in Indiana.
And can you tell us a little about this man?
Willie Cooper was a community activist, and he was gunned down on 95th Street. And he committed his life to an organization called Littledale Outreach for the Kids to stop the violence, even though it put him in harm's way of two rival factions that he made every effort to try to keep them from killing each other. And in some type of twist of faith, one of those factions is saying that they have a problem with him. So That's from what the people are saying to us what happened. And so he did very well. He really made a great effort to stop the violence in the community, and we welcome everybody to come to his event.
In addition, once again, we're dedicating this show to the memory of Robert Cooley. He was one of our Green Slate associates that was senselessly killed along the July 4th weekend, leaving his 2 children behind. Robert, we miss you. And you've been watching CAN TV, Channel 21, and I'm Jan Kowalski from Green Slate. And give me a second here. And tonight we've been joined by Paul McKinney. And thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And tonight my technician has been Ziv Sistrunk. And Robert Cooley and Willie Cooper, you are missed. And thank you. And have a good night. And please join us next week, 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock Thursday. Thank you. Good night.